All right, well, this is Racer Radio. It's a little bit of a different show today. I don't know if anybody in the racing community has heard, but our good friend Ron Esau passed away last week. And you know how Britney and I are. We like to do tributes. Mainly it's for the family. We are going to have some folks call in today, and we have such a special guest in the house. Takes me forever to get this guy out of his motorhome. But we got Tiger Tom McGrath in the house. How you doing, Budsky?
I'm doing real good, Dave. Doing real good.
Listen to that voice, folks. All you Cajon Speedway people, if you don't remember that guy, man, and I use you as an example every time I talk about it now.
All the time.
I do.
He talks about you all. I can't believe I'm sitting at the table with you
I
rubbing
know.
elbows.
I know. Well, because what Tom would do, and he was, when it comes to announcing, nobody does it better. Scott does an awesome job, Delosi. Because he does the same thing Tom does. He knows the drivers. He knows their family. He gets to the racetrack hours early and spends most of your time in the pits, right?
Absolutely.
And that's how you met Ron.
I met him, yes, in the pits.
Yeah.
But I met him after I bought my stock car.
Oh, that's right. You did used to drive.
Yes, Dave.
Get that straight.
It was an illustrious 2-year career.
Oh, wow. Whole 2 years?
And I did win a race.
That's right. Well, in the parking lot, but he still won the race. And we also have David Esau in the house. His son. He's not going to really chime in unless he wants to. By the way,
anytime you want.
Radio rule: put your finger in the air. That's in case you want to talk. And we're just going to sort of reminisce, because there's a lot of folks out there that knew Ron. Tom's probably got more stories on Ron. We're going to get.
We haven't got that time,
Yeah, well, isn't that the truth? And Ron was, but I'm going to have to tell one cute story on Ron because I got to get this off my chest.
I know.
But there was a gentleman that had ALS, and I cannot think of his name. It's Jim. Wish I could think of the name of it. But anyway, we were doing a charity event for him because he had ALS and he was not feeling well. And Dave Salas had donated a Dale Earnhardt Sr. driving suit. And everybody knows I'm a big Earnhardt fan.
Oh, yeah.
On the paperwork, it said extra large. So I thought, well, shoot, I'm going to get this. Maybe I'll wear it as a costume party or something. So the paperwork is there. And I couldn't even see the driving suit. So it was a silent auction, so I put 50. Ron comes over and puts 75. I looked at him. I go, okay. So I put 100. He comes over and puts 125. I go, hey, I'm only doing radio. I don't have a lot of money. And he goes, he walks away. So I watched that nobody else was going over there. He got me up to a $225.
Nice.
And then it turned out the driving suit was a small.
Oh, okay.
But it's hanging in my front room. Right to the left of my big TV. And every time I look at it, David, I have to tell you, I think of your dad. Because he just thought that was the funniest thing.
So every Halloween, Michelle has to put that suit on.
I don't even think she can get in it. That's the sad thing about it is. But yeah, no, it sits right in there. So from your memories, tell us, I mean, if he helped you get into a race car, that had to be huge.
Well, when you
Jimmy Watkins, ALS. Thank you very much, whoever that person was.
Yes, that's the right name.
Yeah, that's the right name.
But no, when I bought the race car from Jim Bridges, who was at that time.
What year was this? Would you say?
1974.
Okay.
And I bought it from Jim Bridges, who was at that time the president of the Stock Car Association, Jim and Dot Bridges. And you get this thing home in your garage, and I could fire it up, and sit there and listen and brum, 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 and all that kind of stuff.
Didn't you have the owner's manual?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And if you ask me if I read it, no.
No.
So I start asking questions from the guys. I'm going, where do I go get a little basic 101 race car guy school type of thing? And they gave me some names like Bill Shannon and Jim, and then of course the Esau name and family came up, and so they go, well, George's shop is right over here on Pioneer Way. Just go over there and stop by.
And this is Ron's dad.
Ron's dad. Right. And George and Ron and Larry, all worked there along with the rest of their crew. And the race car shop was right there as well.
Well, of course.
And so I stopped by there one day and I'm going, hey, do you think you guys could give me a little help with this thing? And they go, we'd be more than happy to do so.
Yeah.
And that was the thing is, and Cajon in the Superstock days, in the late 60s, early 70s, it was a very tight-lipped group of competitors.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you nothing. They didn't want to tell you nothing, even if you wanted to pay for it.
Yeah.
But, the Esau's, they wanted to help you. They
Yeah.
wanted to make you better because it would make them better.
Exactly.
Right.
Give them somebody competitive to race with eventually once you get down there.
Yeah.
And so there were times when, at that time in the early, in the Superstock days, we didn't have the everyday practices that they had later on when Steve opened the track to rent it in the afternoon.
Right.
Because of insurance reasons and what
Sure.
have you. And so Saturday was the only day you could go out and test, and that was the same day we raced.
Right.
So they had the ambulance and everything out there. In the morning, it was open to the guys that maybe had a blown engine the week before or had a serious crash, or rookies like me that wanted to get some help and experience. And Ronnie was more than helpful in coming out there with me every Saturday morning, even though he had work on his own car to do. And he'd get in my car and go out and take for some laps and come back in and tell me, yeah, you need to do this, you need to do this, or we need this kind of a spring here, we need that kind of a shock here. I mean, he was very, very, and at that time, he was like 20 years old. He was a kid.
Yeah.
And but it was so knowledgeable,
And he
was
learned that
way,
from his dad.
absolutely.
Yeah. So he learned that from his dad. And I have to say, David, every story, every person I talked to prior to doing this show, all said the same thing. He would always do whatever he could to make you better on the track.
Right.
Because what I do. There's some guys out of Columbia Speedway wouldn't tell you anything. If they told you anything, it might not even be right.
The opposite.
Or they
'Cause
would
they
tell
wanted
you
to
the
win.
opposite. Run this spring. Put an 1,800-pound spring on the right front.
Yeah.
And you don't need air in the left rear. It's okay. You really don't.
Yeah.
Well, and it really didn't make any difference what division it was either, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, he still, I think, because and then his career, according to David, started in dirt.
Yeah.
So are you happy now?
That's fantastic news.
Well, I know, because if I didn't think he started off in dirt, you'd be all upset. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. By the way, I got to figure out who this phone number is, because somebody by the name of Debbie Clark?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
I remember Debbie, too.
Kevin Clark is her husband, or was her husband. I don't know. If he's,
Oh, be careful now.
yeah, I'm getting
That's
in
it.
uncharted
Don't get us in
territory.
trouble.
But,
All right.
yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Racer Radio, we got a whole lot more to talk about with Ron Esau, Tom McGrath, and Britney. She's all happy he's on dirt. AM, FM, or AM, FM, FM. See, I'm all messed up.
Wow.
Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The answer.
We got Dirt Dude on the line, but first we're going to talk to Jared Baxter. Jared, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Hope you guys are.
Well, it's kind of a sad day, but it's a good day because we're getting some great stories on Ron Esau. Kind of what have you got to contribute?
Well, back in the day, like Ron and I would argue all the time who was going to be the next driver for the Wood Brothers car. We were both way off base. So we just raced a lot around San Diego, and then in Southern California, and then I had the opportunity to get an investor that would help me build cars on my own. So in 1986, it's the year they started the Southwest Tour, and my first car that was my design, the whole deal, Ron got. So he took a chance on me, and then he ended up winning it all. I think he won, he won 4 or 5 races and won the championship, and that really helped him, but it helped me, too, get my career started.
Wow. So would you say he was truly a true racer? I mean, he could get into a car, and he could really, just by driving it, tell you what to do, what to change to make it a better ride, or was it all driver?
No, he was he was pretty good at telling you what was going on. A lot of the drivers, especially nowadays. I don't know if you know what I do or not, but I've been crew chief in the 43 for Richard Petty for the last couple of years, and now I'm doing the truck series. But a lot of the drivers will kind of make up things that they think is right or think is wrong, where Ron was pretty straight up. Here's what's going on.
Right.
So, that would just be easier for me, for my job to make that thing turn better and go faster. So that was pretty special.
Now, were you dirt and asphalt, both? What would you mainly do with Ron?
Asphalt.
Okay.
All asphalt. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and who are you crewing for in the truck series?
I just moved over to David Gilliland, who's from California.
Yeah.
And the driver is Tanner Gray.
Yeah.
And he's from New Mexico. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. The Cup Series is quite the grind, as you know. And so I just looked at it like, 23 races compared to 38.
Yeah.
It's my time to do that,
Yeah. Well, at least you're staying in the race season. So when you did the Southwest Tour with Ron, and I should have known Southwest Tour is asphalt, not dirt. Like, you didn't correct me, you old man. Well, you were thinking about it.
Well, I wanted to let you run with it. Like they say, you don't want to pull the hook out of the guy's mouth too fast. Let him run with it, then set it.
Snag that rascal. So how long did he stay with you with the Southwest Tour?
Well, I was building customer cars that whole time. I had a chassis shop, and Ernie Irvin worked with me, and Ivan Baldwin, and we built a lot. I think built about 350 cars in 10 years. Had quite a few wins, obviously, but quite a few championships with different people, Dan Press and Doug George and Toby Butler, and just on and on, a lot of them. But Ron taking a chance on us to start with was pretty big for the company, and we went on from there.
So by you making that statement, it sounds to me like Ron had been racing quite a bit before he got to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when he started. I think he was like, I'm going to guess like around maybe 1973 or something like that. And he was fortunate enough to be able to race at a lot of venues, not just at Cajon Speedway.
Right.
He went all around Orange Show and Saugus and 605 and Vegas. Just, he was fortunate. And then he went to Phoenix and did well there. And he did the West Series and won a few races there. That was pretty cool. And we all loved it because he was from San Diego. So
sure.
That was good.
Yeah. And that's the same thing I've heard as well. I mean, pretty much, hey, Ron, you want to go race? He didn't really care what it was, where it was. He was there.
Right. And he did a really good job of generating funds at the time, too, because, that's the biggest challenge in stock car racing, no matter what. But he did a pretty good job. He had a lot of backing for McDonald's. Obviously, his father helped a lot. But he did a good job of promoting himself, so that was good.
My personal opinion from and Tom, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if he would have had the backing, I think he would have definitely got into NASCAR.
Well, we had that discussion many times.
Did you?
And a lot of racers that came through Cajon Speedway that were locals, they mulled that over themselves. But Ron, and David could also shed light on this as well. You got to be so driven to want to pick up your family and everything you own and move back to the East Coast because you got to, like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, they had to move back there, and work right close to the factory and right close to the shop where their cars and stuff were at. And Ron just
didn't want to make that commitment.
Exactly. Yeah. And George, he would have supported him, his dad. Another guy I don't want to forget in all this when you were talking about setup of cars and how knowledgeable he was. One of the knowledgeable Esau's was David's uncle, Uncle Larry. Larry was a wizard.
Really?
And he helped Ronnie as much as anyone in terms of figuring out a track, figuring out a car. George was more than happy to pay the bills, but if you
George wrote the check.
Yeah. If you ask George, well, how's it handling? And he goes, I don't know.
I think it goes left, but
I
I'm
haven't
not
got any brakes or whatever.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so Larry started driving first, and it was go-karts. And then when Larry moved on to the cars, he got my dad into it.
Really?
So that's kind of how it started. And Larry actually got George into it first.
Absolutely.
No kid. In fact, your dad ended up back in go-karts.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's 3 in the garage right now.
Yeah.
3 in the garage right now.
That's right.
That's why.
Well, see, George promised Larry. Larry was about to, as a kid, was about to have a real serious operation. And he told me, he says, you got to have this, son. And if you get through it all right, I'll buy you a go-kart.
Whoa.
And Larry did. They went up to L.A., bought a go-kart with all the trimmings and fixings.
Sure.
And then the first time they took it out, they went to a track in San Marcos. For the love of me, I don't know where that one's at because
It's gone now.
It's gone now.
Yeah.
But anyways, they got out to the track. George gets Larry in the cart. He takes it out for a lap, maybe 2 at best, comes in. And George goes, I want to go. I want to get in there. I want to take some laps. So George gets in. And he starts running, and he's going around and around, and they're, after a while, they're
Come on
trying
in,
to
come
flag
on
him,
in.
come on in. He keeps on driving. He ran the cart out of gas completely, and then he goes, "What's wrong with this thing?
Yeah.
I can't get it to run anymore." And he goes, "Well, it's empty." But for both of them, that's where it kind of started.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it kind of just ran in the family, really, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So Jared, you probably been staying close to his career the whole time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you start that, you can't go away from it, And I've been living in North Carolina for quite a while, since the '90s, and
Sure.
Doesn't matter. You're still, fond of your people,
Right.
where you're from. So, I had to stay doing that for sure.
Well, and they're the ones that got you there, so to speak, and that was
right.
kind of when you became friends with Ron, it was for life, no matter where you were at, and he's worked. Who's that? Oh, listening or on? Oh, okay. What's his last name? Yes, my assistant over here is trying to make me crazy.
How am I doing?
Yeah. And then, but there's, I can't even count. I don't know about you, Tom, how many drivers in town were touched by the Esau's.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a lot.
Oh, a lot. A
Yeah.
lot.
And
You
then-
would go, Monday afternoons was the get together for bench racing at the Esau's.
Yes, that's what Mondays are for.
And I would go there after I got to know everybody and kind of felt comfortable with everybody. I'd stop by on my way home because I lived in Santee, so I at the time.
Yeah.
And I would stop by, and you never know who you'd run into.
Right.
Len Chenoweth, who wasn't a circle track racer,
Yeah.
noted for the dune buggies and off-road racing.
Yeah.
He would always be there just to be in the corner, just listening to
Just
wanna hear
stories.
these
and
stories.
jokes. Yeah. And then McIntyre, Bartley, you name it, they would come by and say hello and they'll tell their story. And Ronnie, of course, just lapped it up. He loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And Larry would be over there in the corner just writing.
Yeah.
The only guy working.
Yeah, right. Everybody else.
That's funny.
By the way, we've got Dirt Dude on the line, too, so we're not giving up on you, Dirt Dude. So just hang with us.
And Bear, before we go, can we double check our caller's name?
Is this Jerry or
Is it Jerry or Jared?
It's Jerry.
Okay.
Where's that?
I wasn't gonna embarrass
Well,
you. I
that's okay. That's okay. I get called Bob Stahl all
Yeah,
the time.
you do.
So I
Now,
have no fear.
is this the Jerry Baxter that's the son of Bob Baxter?
That's him.
Okay.
Well, by God darn it,
That's where you
dude.
would have to
If
figure it
these
out.
guys hadn't have screwed up your name, I would have known you right away, dude.
Who's that board up in there? That rascal
Yeah,
boy.
that's-
You're never getting another egg. That's all there is to it.
We're all on the same page
So
now.
so
We're
now
all on the same
we're
page.
we're in the circle of brilliance. This is great.
Yeah.
You have an
You know, Tom,
authentic,
I was gonna-
real guy there. You
I was
do.
going to try and get your contact after the show, Tom, and call you because I think we probably haven't talked in 30 years,
Absolutely.
Wow.
I'd love to hear from you.
Well, before you hang up, we're going to have you talk to my illustrious board op, and he'll get your contact info, and I'll share it with Tom. And now that Tom has figured out how to find this place, we will have him back on.
We'll lasso you
and
in.
I would love to talk to your new truck driver, seriously, because you know as well as I do, media is everything. And
Absolutely.
And your sponsors are always looking to see what have you done for me lately. So we're going to have to take a break. If you want to stay on, if you have the time, we're going to take another break, come back. And if you want to chime in and tell more stories or and what have you, we would love to have you on.
All right, I'll hang out for a little bit. Thank you.
All right, till the wife tells you to go do something. Then you can, go.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. This is Racer Radio, FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
Hey, we've also got Dirt Dude on the line. Dirt Dude, welcome to the show.
Hey, I've been hanging out, listening.
I don't want to hear nothing. You still got drawers to organize, so don't give me a static. So, Brandon mentioned that maybe down the road, Barona will help out with a charity race for Ron.
I'm sure something's going to come up here soon down the road.
Yeah.
We had lost our tow truck driver just at the beginning of the season, or at the end of the season last year, so I know our second race is going to be a memorial for him.
Good.
This coming up so soon, I was surprised. I mean, I don't think Ron had ever been to our track much. If he had, I haven't really got a chance to interface with him much. But I know every racer at our track had background with him, either from asphalt or from dirt or, touching bases with their shop and stuff like that. So it affected a lot of people. So I'm sure we're going to try and do something.
Right.
Someone was actually asking me, since you got Tom in studio, someone wanted to do a tribute night to Cajon at Barona sometime. So I want to invite Tom up sometime to announce with me.
But he's so expensive. He needs a limo. He needs M&Ms, just the blue ones, not any other colors.
I need Pepsi.
And a wheelchair.
Pepsi, a wheelchair.
No, not Pepsi.
You're on your own, dude.
Oh,
Pepsi.
Antacid.
Well, I'm sure Tom will be more than happy to do it because he sits in his backyard,
He just
calls
signed
the
you up there,
races,
Tom.
calls the races when he sees the mice running around the backyard. No, that'd be great.
I sent him a message. I'm sure we could work out something.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we, once we find out what we're going to do, probably sometime, a couple races in, we'll probably do something for Ron because, like I said, he had a lot of people on the track that he knew, a lot of Cajon guys, and like I said, he probably came up there and watched people
He
that
did.
were racing still
That's
at
where
Barona.
I met him. I met him at
Oh, is that where you
Barona.
met him? Up there at...
Danny Brent put me in contact with him,
Okay.
and that's how we got him on last January.
Well, and ever since he passed away, and I started putting the word, it's really been amazing. The common denominator is he did so much for me in my racing, and it's just ironic, that because you mentioned it in the first part of the show. A lot of racers don't want to share, what they know because they may want you out there, but they don't want you to beat them.
Exactly.
He was just the opposite. But I think I personally think his talent was right there. Jerry, what do you think?
Oh, for sure. And he was blessed enough to have his dad to help him out, which is just fantastic. And then everybody looked up to him because he was winning all the time. Like that's what he did, was win races. So everybody looked up to him, and that's a big bonus, obviously.
Yeah, and the other thing impressed me was the way he came to the track. His equipment was impeccable. Clean, I don't know who did his designs or his paint schemes. Tom, you might know. But he always, when he came to the show, kind of like Mr. Oberman, because he was the same way. Their cars were pristine.
Yeah, Overman was the guy that set the tone
the
for
gentleman
pretty cars.
Overman, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know who did the paint schemes on those cars, but they did a great job. But as far as the cars themselves, I think David Beat is the one that kind of headed up the show for him.
Yeah.
And they were nice. Very nice.
God, I haven't heard David Beat's name in a long time.
I talked to
too.
David a couple of days ago
Did
because
you?
we were talking about this whole thing.
Yeah.
David was Ronnie's crew chief when he won the Southwest Tour.
Gotcha.
And the inaugural year, 1986.
Uh-huh.
Now, back up a little bit. Ronnie started Superstocks in the late 60s, early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
His car that was in Stock Car Racing magazine, pictured in the centerfold along with Ron Overman's, was a 62 Pontiac Tempest, or yellow and blue. And I know because I made the body on it.
That's right. You were Mr. Fiberglass.
Absolutely. And my car was a 62 Pontiac Tempest.
Did it go as fast?
Not with me in it.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
Just to defend my honor here, all
You
our
take that
Saturday
minute.
morning sessions, Ronnie would come out and beat me by a second and a half.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, well, try this. Then we go back out. After about nearly half a season of that, I started catching him,
Really?
to the point where we were about even.
Yeah.
And then I looked at him after one session. I go, well, what is it going to take to go faster? And he did the old rub the fingers together. Money, dude. The next
In
day.
other words, your talent is
carried me as far as
you're going to. Yeah.
Hey, Jerry, you are yeah. Jerry, you're the product of a guy that had a father helping him out too. The driver of the Blue
absolutely.
Caboose, Bob Baxter.
Yeah, he was actually smarter than most of them because when you guys are talking about the Monday afternoons, get-togethers at Esau Supply.
Yeah.
My dad was the one that was over there gathering up all the stuff they thought was no good.
Yeah.
And then he would go out and outrun them half the time. And Ronnie and George would get so angry. They're like, Jesus, we just gave him all this stuff and now he's beat us. So, yeah,
He's
yeah, I
still
was
probably sore for the $40 I charged him for a right front fender on his Nova.
Yeah, you
I
probably.
guarantee it.
Probably.
I guarantee it.
Hey, we got another caller in. No relation to me, but Mr. Mark Stahl.
Oh my God!
How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Keep yelling.
Okay.
So you got a Ronnie story?
Well, I just wanted to talk about all the years at Cone Speedway that I competed against Ronnie, and we were good friends, but we were competitors. But Ronnie was a good, honorable competitor to compete against. He never tried to wreck you. He would race with you cleanly, and that was always enjoyable to do. Somebody, you didn't have to worry about them crashing you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the whole racing world is going to meet, especially everybody from Southern California and the ones that got to compete against him. And I just to tell his family and friends and everybody that it's a tough one for me, and I'm sure everybody else,
Yeah.
and we're all thinking about him and putting our thoughts and prayers in for the family.
Well, we're going to do a memorial, David. You're saying somewhere in April. We haven't quite locked a date in yet.
April 3rd
from
from 1 to 5 at the Lakeside Rodeo Grounds.
Okay, and the reason we're doing that date is because we didn't want it to be
We had
during
to
a
move it
race
because
night.
of
A lot of
the
racing the
Got
day
a lot of
before.
messages.
Yeah, because your dad would be really upset
You
if
can't do
you're
it on
cutting into a
Saturday.
race night. So, Mark, we'll keep you abreast on that. I'm sure you're going to, and I'm going to do something on KUSI. I'm sure you have all your race cars. Maybe we'll get one of yours to come down, or are you still got any of your dad's cars?
We could probably
No,
do
but
55. what he said.
I have my Nora truck that you've seen a few times. I know we got to hang out at the dinner awards one night at the Nora Awards, but
Yeah.
I might be able to bring that down then.
Yeah, all kinds of race cars. Well, man, it's really stay in touch with us. Don't hang up when you hang up, and I'm going to have my board op give you my cell number, or you can get me on Facebook, because we would love to have you come in as well and sit and do radio and talk about the good old time, because, as much as I hate losing Ronnie, this has really been so far, we're not even done yet. It's been an amazing show.
Yeah, and I want to tell Jerry Baxter hi. He and his dad let me wreck his race car at Cajon Speedway one night because I think my car blew up. So I drove Bob's car, and somehow I know the whole ass end of it got smashed.
Hey, Jerry, do you know Mark Stahl?
Oh, yeah, we know each other from Cajon Speedway and the East Coast. We've hung out in the garage at the NASCAR races.
Right.
Hey, Jerry, good to hear from you.
He came back here for a while.
Hey,
Yep.
let me tell these two guys, the Baxters and the Stalls.
Yeah.
You know the Hatfield and McCoys?
That was it?
No, not the guys, the girls.
Oh.
Holly Stahl and Barbara Baxter. They raced in the Powder Puff division.
Really?
The ladies only division when we had it. Those two women went after each other tooth and nail every time they hit the track. I
believe
saw
it.
Barbara Baxter wad up in the entire Baxter running organization in one night trying to get that $50 championship trophy at the end of the year. Bob was beside himself.
I bet you haven't heard that story in a while.
No, but I think they were good competitors with each other too. I don't think there was any animosity in between them.
No.
I think they just both wanted to win.
Exactly. Exactly.
What's that old saying? The acorn doesn't fall too far from the tree, type of a deal. But this is great. I mean, there's a lot. There's so many, like I keep saying it over and over. There's so many drivers that were touched by Ronnie. I wish we may even do this again, just because there's going to be some, because you're going to post this on Facebook because you know how to do it and I don't have a clue. And more people are going to want to say, we missed the show. We want to be part of it as well.
Yeah, an hour isn't enough for this.
No, you're absolutely right. And Becky McBride was going to be coming in today, and I was really hoping to see her. So I'm sure something's come up, or hopefully she's at least listening because I know she's got. But the stories are just endless. I mean, am I right, David? I mean, this thing could be a 5-hour show.
Easily.
Yeah, easily. So, Jerry, let's. You got any more stories?
Sure.
We got a couple minutes before we take a break. Then I'm going to let you take off.
I don't have any that we can really put on.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. You're golden.
We got lots of stories, but we're going to just keep them in the pocket.
All right.
Keep them in the pocket.
Yeah, keep them in the pocket. So, Jerry, I'm going to go ahead. Don't hang up. Brandon's going to get your phone number so we can stay in contact with you because like I said, I'm more than happy to help your new truck driver. I think you've got a star there, and we will be more than happy to follow him through the series. He can call in periodically, win or lose, and talk about sponsorship and do whatever we can to help you make a success out of that.
Absolutely.
All right, good deal. So, Mark, you still running Nora?
Yes. Yep. We're just about got the truck all prepped, and the race is about 2 months away from now.
2 months away, man. That'll be great. So you have a great time. All right, buddy. Hey, again, I can get you on Facebook, or Brandon will get your name and number, and we'll get you back in, and we'll talk some more. About your situation, your series, your truck, and I'd love to have people hear about the history of that truck.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, buddy. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but Tom McGrath is not going anywhere. And neither is David right here on Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The answer.
So David was, remember folks, we always tell you radio's always better off air than on air. So David, tell us just Australia. I wouldn't go to Australia because it's 27,000 hours of flying?
First flight, I was 8 years old. Went over to Australia. My dad was racing at the Thunderdome. Finishes third, and I'm screaming in the stands, so excited. And then next to me is, I remember, Sterling Marlin's son, and he's crying because his dad got second or something.
How did he end up in Australia? I mean, who made that phone call? I mean,
I don't know. I don't remember.
He was 8, David. He doesn't
he's 8
remember.
years old. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Tom, you had just an eloquent statement off air, of course.
Yeah.
About the stock cars.
Well, Ron's career, as you said, he started late 60s, early 70s, somewhere in there. But his career and his experience at Cajon and other places, of course, literally transcended that in literally his entire life, because he started in the good old, as we say, the good old days of the Elkhorn Stock Car Racing Association,
Right.
where these cars were literally hand-built by everybody that raced them. They weren't just jig built off of a chassis shop, in Colorado
Right.
or up in L.A. at Stock Car Products or something like that, or Speedway Engineering and Frank Denny. And so they were really custom works of art, and everybody had a different idea of how to go
Oh,
fast.
sure, because there was
and
nothing to
some
work
were,
from.
and some weren't, and we all know who they are. We all know who you are out there.
Well, guess what? I think one of them is on the line.
Uh-oh.
Do you know the name John Borneman?
Oh, yes, I do.
Hey, John, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dave? Hello, Tom.
Hey, Big John.
I always called him GQ because he was the first guy I ever seen that had their Levi's pressed. See, I'm serious, dude.
His wife made him do it.
I don't care. That guy was GQ. He'd come walking in to the pits, and I'd go, wow, look at this guy.
You missed his early Cajon Speedway days in the super stocks.
Oh, really? There was no creased Levi's?
Oh, no.
So, gosh, John, talk about a name from the past. How you been?
Well, I've been pretty good, considering what happened last week.
Yeah.
It really knocked me on my butt like everybody else.
Yeah.
Knew him. It was just a couple weeks ago. He was out at a go-kart track up at the Willow. I forget what they call the little go-kart track with my grandkids and my son. They were practicing go-karts, and he called me after it was all done, and he says, "John, I'm the only guy that can say that they raced with 3 generations of Bornemans."
Yeah.
I went, oh, boy. I said,
Yeah.
"They whip you pretty good, Ronnie?" He said, "Yeah, they're pretty fast." In fact, there's a picture of all of them up there racing it. It's my grandson, Byron, leading, and Ronnie was second, my granddaughter third, and Johnny bringing up the rear. But, yeah, they had a good time. And
Yeah.
amazing how happy he was, Anyway, I just want to remember him like that.
Yeah.
That's all. It took me by surprise. So first thing I did, next morning I couldn't sleep, and I started thinking I got to tell some stories about the good old days with Ronnie. I mean, back in the day when we raced Speedway 605 up there.
Oh.
Back in those days, we raced also Riverside in Ontario, right?
Right.
Well, they wouldn't let us race a sportsman race, and everybody would just cherry pick Riverside in Ontario unless you actually raced 7 short track races on the short NASCAR short tracks.
Uh-huh.
So I had this nice T-Bird that I got from Clem Proctor to race up there, and NASCAR goes, "Oh no, you got to have those races." I go, "Oh no." George says, "I'll make you a deal." He says, "I'm turning this 57 Chevy that I drive over to Ronnie. He's got to learn how to drive. Why don't you take him up there with you? You qualify the car. You run the heat race. Let Ronnie run the main event. He gets seat time. You get your races on. If you do that for me, I'll get you those 7 races."
Whoa.
And that's how I actually met Ronnie. First time he ever strapped in a car with me there strapping him in, and just a kid. In fact, Doug Fleming put a picture on Facebook that just tore me up. It was of that car at that track with George's. It was actually number 5, and we put a number 1 in front of it, made it 15, and it was Ronnie, just a young kid with that bushy hair. And, oh, Lord. Sure is tough, because you know what? From there, that guy went on to win everywhere he went.
Yeah.
I mean, you could name race tracks all over the north. He won everywhere he went, and different cars. I mean, driving for different owners. He was just don't get me wrong, he had some bad ones too. But
Oh, sure.
basically, we all do that. But basically, he won a lot of races. He was a talented son of a gun, especially at Riverside.
Yeah, he loved Riverside.
One of the most pictures I really loved that somebody put in there, it was Ronnie won a race at Riverside, one of his first ones, and had George in there holding the trophy. And George had a smile from ear to ear. I mean, what a happy.
Yeah. Well, just so you'll know, so you'll feel better about it, since this is my show, I can do whatever I want with it. We're going to do this again. and we'll get some more airtime out of you because I know you got some unbelievable stories. And if we can find anybody else from the good old days, I'm sure Tom knows just about most of them. We will do this again. We are going to do a tribute April the
3rd, Sunday, April 3rd.
Out at Lakeside Rodeo. Maybe we can get you to come out. We're going to do some KUSI. And then don't hang up. And I'm going to get my board op to get your phone number so that we can be in touch with you and let you know when the next next show starts and keep you in the loop because you're definitely integral in this whole deal.
I tell you, whatever you're doing for him, I thank you from the bottom of my heart because Ronnie was so special.
He's such a, and I only have one other question. Do you still grease and iron your Levi's?
Hey, that never happened.
Oh, it did too. Oh, I've seen it. Don't even start with it.
If it was my wife says you're the only guy I know that all you wore all your life is white tennis shoes, white T-shirt, Levi's, and boots. That's my outfit.
That's
it had plaster on them. Dave, it had plaster on them.
That's true. They did. All right, buddy. Hey, man, it was awesome talking to you. It really, really was. So don't hang up. Let Brendan get your contact.
Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Remember that one time? I don't know if you were involved, but there was a championship at Cajon, and I got Tamborelli, Overman, I think it was Borneman, and we were going to and I was going to get them all on the radio at the same time, and you said, "Are you out of your mind?"
Oh, yeah.
Are you out of your mind? We did it.
And if you what you didn't get amongst that group, that would have been the igniter would have been Ed Hale.
Oh, I know. And I don't know. I think, but that was back when I was dumb and doing radio. Well, David, I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart to be able to give this to you and your family. We'll get you a copy of this, and I guarantee you, we'll get some more drivers together. Some of the ones that weren't able to do this, we'll do another show. And all you ever have to do is ask me for whatever you want, radio, TV, to honor your dad down the road. Tom, this is a terrible way to get back together again, but it's so good seeing you. I mean, I just can't tell you because, as Britney knows, I used to sub for him every once in a while. Once Dawn figured out that I could talk.
I know you didn't want to because it was big
but she
shoes
figured
to
that
fill.
out. She called me every Saturday. Hey, you want to come out and call? You want to come out and call the races? Well, yeah, but is Tom gonna take that? No, he doesn't know it yet. But can you come? But I never, ever could come close to Tom McGrath.
Ask him what he's doing with the mile markers when he travels with his wife.
What are you doing with him?
I'm announcing cars.
Okay, mile marker 11.
Mile marker. Oh, that's Smiling Ed Hale.
Yes. Mile marker
5.
There you go.
5, John Mankey.
Throwing out, David.
56.
Yeah.
56, George Esau.
Oh, my
Or
God.
Ronnie Esau.
Or Ronnie Esau.
You bet. Yep.
I'm
funny.
telling you, what a great. This is. I can't.
You want sponsors too?
Sure. Oh, you got sponsors too?
Yeah, I got sponsors too.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I will tell one story on myself because, like I said, he knew everybody. He knew their birthdays. He knew everything. One time he wasn't there, and I go, "Hey, if you don't paint your name really big on the roof, I'm not calling it." Because I couldn't remember. All right, we got to go, folks. Don't touch that dial. Ronnie, God bless you. I know you're smiling. FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
All right. Well, folks, this is going to be a different show than what you would normally hear. Normally, it would be car reviews from Brandon and Christian and what have you. But today, we're going to be honoring Ron Esau. His celebration of life is right around the corner. And so we did an hour a while back, and we had so much response of other people that wanted to call in that we had to expand it. So we've decided to take You Ought to Know and Racer Radio and roll it into a memorial show. We got Tom McGrath on the line. He's out of town, but I knew he didn't want to miss it. Tom, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, Dave. How you doing?
Not too bad. We've got Becky McBride in the house along with...
my old sidekick.
Yeah. And you've had a few sidekicks. That's true.
Oh, for sure. But she's a great lady. Great lady.
Yes.
I second that.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And, it's like I told Becky when I seen her, we walked in the door, I go, wow, it's good seeing you again. But, boy, I tell you, it's unfortunate that we're having to do, this memorial for a very fine gentleman, a mentor to a lot of people in the race community. I know, Tom, you've been friends with him for as long as he's been racing.
Absolutely. And, if it wasn't for Esau and his dad, George, and Larry, and then the people that, when you know George Esau, you pretty much know everybody.
Yeah.
Eventually, you will know everybody. And he connected me with the right people when I decided to buy a stock car and try to go out there and go racing with these guys that I used to sit in the stands and cheer for or cheer against. And, when you get a race car, it doesn't come with an owner's manual.
Jeez, I thought it did.
Oh, no. I mean, I inherited a crew chief by the name of Greg Rasky from John Deneen and Jim Bridges' racing team. And then, he didn't know everything there was to know. And I fortunately had a pit slab between Bob Baxter and Bruce Secord, two of the nicest guys and very knowledgeable guys that tried to help me and set me on the straight and narrow. And they go, well, you know what? We ought to get Ronnie over here and have him drive your car, hot lap it, or come out to the track on Saturdays and let him get you dialed in. And sure as hell did, man. And if it wasn't for Ron and a lot of the other guys that were forthcoming with the information, I wouldn't even been able to turn left.
And that was the only way you could go.
Exactly.
That is so cool. Well, I'm so glad hopefully you can stay for, it's a 2-hour show. That's up to you. But, we love having you on. I mean, you've got so many insightful stories. But I'm going to go to Becky for a moment. So, Becky, how long have you known Ron?
Well, we were children in the grandstands,
Really?
and we were both young kids and watching our families race. He was watching his dad. I was watching my Uncle Al, and we were just probably 12 and 14 or 12 and 15 or even younger. But what was so ironic about our relationship is back then girls couldn't go in the pits at all. So there was no way I was getting in the pits. And then as far as Ronnie, he was just waiting to get old enough, but he sat with his mom and his grandma, and we sat in the stands, which is what so many generations did. We grew up in the grandstands together as small children.
Did you have your own favorite spot where nobody else could
The
sit?
other side.
I knew that.
When she was in here a while back, I remember she ended up painting them, didn't you?
Yeah, I painted the grandstands because I had, the east side was too rowdy for my family, so my aunt said, we're going to the west side, and the west side was a little bit calmer, and that's where my family sat for years.
Yeah. And Tom, why was that? Why was the east side crazy and the west side not?
There was more beer there.
Oh, simply put.
That might have had that's right, because there was no beer over on the west side.
No.
Or if there was, it was a small stand.
One snack bar compared to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the east side stands were almost twice the size of the west side stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, just more people.
And you know what's crazy? The east side stand, the sun was in your eyes. And I always thought, well, people over on the west side seem to be a lot smarter than the ones on the east side because they're not getting the sun blaring them in the eyes.
Yeah. Well, I used to refer to them as the west side crazies, fondly enough. But I said, you guys are sitting on the correct side because the wind was always coming from that direction.
Yeah.
Every time some car would go into the infield and raise up a plume of dust, us east side folks were eating it,
That is
I'd be announcing and coughing at the same time,
That is.
That race was.
Yeah. So Becky, when Ron started driving, did you become a fan of his?
No.
Okay. She
No.
didn't hesitate.
No.
There
No.
was no hesitation.
No, I was loyal to my family. We had
And
enough
he was
race
the
cars.
competition.
Well, he was the competition, but if you remember, and Tom can relate to this, there was a Mason-Dixon line in the pit area. So you had the Esau's, the Baxters, the Witts, there was a certain group that was on that side of the pit area.
Uh-huh.
And then our whole neighborhood pitted on the other side, which I could see from the west side grandstands. So there was the McBrides, the Often Gardens, Warren Tolles, the Swinkowskis. There was a whole group over there. So I could stand up in the very top corner and actually see my family working on the race car.
No
But
kidding.
they were on the other side of the pit, and that was a whole nother deal.
Nothing's changed, it sounds like. I'm thinking of Verona right now.
Oh,
Nothing
It's
has
true.
changed.
It's very territorial.
Yeah.
And then what was ironic is I became a Baxter. So then I crossed over.
Romeo and Juliet.
And then the McBrides came over
That's
eventually, and our
funny.
pit stall was dead center in the middle.
no.
So did you became a Ron fan?
No.
No.
So
That's twice now.
no, I became Ron's score because everybody had to have a score. So if you traveled, you had to have a score.
Oh, that's right.
So while Marcia was with David and they were in the grandstands
Sure.
and she was taking care of David, I was able to score for Ronnie. So I started scoring for Ronnie, which was pen and paper, keeping track of his lap times. And that was all over. That was Japan. That was all over the West Coast. Pretty much every
Japan?
racetrack. Well, we went to Japan together.
Really?
I think it was in 96. And we were actually working on a team with Joe Bean. And again, I went as a score. Ronnie was a mentor at that time for Joe Bean, and he was spotting.
Uh-huh.
And so when he got a spotting job, he said, well, I know someone that can score. So we were a team with Brendan Gaughan and,
Sure.
you know,
Oh, Brendan
Brandon
Gaughan.
Witt.
And then you became a fan of Ron's?
No.
Well, by then we had traveled so much. We were like family, and Marcia and David were family. And we stood in line with Marcia when she was pregnant with David, and we're giving her crackers. And so, you know, and Vi was like she was our mentor to the girls. So
Aw.
Tom knows that we all literally grew up together.
Well, yeah, it's like family.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, hey, so our next guest is on the line. Tom, do you know Daniel Smith?
Have heard the name. I don't know him real well though.
All right, so we're going to chat with.
I'll probably regret saying that because
Yeah.
don't you remember me?
Yeah, I know.
exactly. How dare you?
You are the announcer. You're supposed to know everybody and their families. I know. Isn't that the craziest part of it? All right. Well, let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We've got another hour and 45 minutes of the Ron Esau Memorial right here on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
All right, folks. Hey, welcome back. You know, I'm just going to call it Racer Radio because that's really what it is. A 2-hour Racer Radio show right here on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
All right. We were doing a Ron Esau Memorial. We have Tom McGrath on the line, and we got Becky McBride in the house. And Becky, who is this wild one you got coming up next?
Daniel Smith is very notorious for being a car owner and a tough competitor, and he actually was Ronnie's owner in 1983 at Mesa Marin, and they were the car to beat.
Really?
They were
Daniel, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome you guys.
Well, I tell you what, I know it'd have been nicer if we could have had Ron sitting in here and we could just reminisce, but unfortunately it is what it is. But somebody tells me you got a story or two on Ron?
Yeah, we've got a lot of stories, but our time is limited. I understand. The thing with Ron is, I just want to say and just get it up front. I really like the guy a lot. I watched him race before, and I'm a drag racer, so I was drag racing, and my partner, he said, "Man, let's build a circle track car." I said, "Man, I don't know nothing about going in circles, you know." So he said, "Let's do it." So we built the car, and I didn't know anything about cars, didn't know anything at all. And Mesa Marin was open, and Ron was driving some cars out there, and so we went out and we weren't really fast, and we ran a big block Chevy engine. No one else ran one, and I insisted. I said, "We're going to run this engine no matter what. I don't care. I'm going to win with this thing no matter what. And if we're not going to do that, I'm not going to get involved in it." So they're a lot heavier, a lot of horsepower and whatnot. We watched Ron race. He was just smooth, and I liked it. I liked the way he drove, and so we put a couple of drivers in here just trying to work the bugs out, getting the engine all squared away. And local machine shop here, Hugh Reynolds, he helped us a bunch get through that. But we worked with a bunch of people. I wish I was familiar with engines through drag racing. Finally got the thing to run really well, and Ron had started driving for a team. I think they shut down. So I went and talked to him. He said, "Heck yes." He said, "I'm ready." So we put him in it, and we were trying to get used to each other and whatnot. And that thing had so much power that you had to be really smooth on the throttle. And he was very good and controlled. We had a lot of learning to do, but we meshed and got it figured out. And I told him, I said, hey, I don't know where we're going to finish in this race. I don't care. But when I show up at a race, I want to be the fastest cat there. I just want to be fast. So we got to have fast time. So he would qualify, and we would be within the top 3 or 4. So I started a little deal. I would reach in. He'd be all strapped in. I said, are you going to get me that fast time? He goes, man, I'm going to try. I'll reach in. I just grabbed him by the tit and just twist as hard as I could. He would start screaming and yell. I said, get me that fast time. Well, he said, yeah, man, let me go. Let him go. We got that fast time.
No.
I want to say this, in 1982, we lowered the track record at Mason Marin 6 different times. And I didn't have to squeeze him anymore.
I didn't have to squeeze him anymore.
Yeah, well, that would be a
That's a
deterrent.
tagline.
And we run an 18. I'm looking at an old book here. I dug this stuff out and just going through memory lane. And we run an 1865, and that's we kept lowering the track record. And the guy to beat those times, I mean, I give credit where credit's due. The guy everybody gauged off of was Jim Thurkettle.
Nice.
And he was a multi-track champion there at Mason Marin. So, that's kind of where we gauged off. So when you out-qualified him, you had to be fast. So
Sure.
I was really pleased with my performance. And so then when we come to the new year, we got ready for the it's a Bakersfield, California 100. It's an annual deal they had. And the tracks were just absolutely packed. Marion Collins had leased a track out to Dick Steinbeck and Doug Baton, and they were the promoters at that time. So I had a bunch of boys that was out here. They all liked Ronnie, and we had a lot of fun. And was in the shop. It was all a last, just a lot of fun. And we were serious, but we still had a lot of fun. So we got this car fine-tuned. We're ready for this race. It's one of the biggest races there is. And Ronnie, he had fast time. Excuse me, we had second fast time. That time Mike Skinner, I think, had fast time. Anyway, they started the race. I have the article right here. It's out of Bakersfield, California. So they were the ones that were sponsoring the race. So being this a newspaper local, we had a lot of coverage. So the race, as it started, this is the next day after, it said Mesa's greatest spectacle wasn't racing. And it said, so it goes on, it says all the ingredients for a superb show, a good field of cars, model weather, and packed grandstands were on hand at Mason Marin Raceway for the season opening of the Bakersfield, California 100. The night turned out to be a disaster. The usually close trophy dash wasn't close. The heat races were painfully boring, and the main event came 40 laps into the event. Officials tried to send Lakeside's Ron Esau to the back of the pack after a car driven by Mike Skinner spun out as Esau passed him to take the lead. The ensuing altercation on the track and person from the pits running into the track trying to punch the starter, and Esau later
Oh my
parking
gosh.
Esau later parking the car in front of the starter stand to argue its case, fueled emotions and fans in the stands, resulting in several fights breaking out. With all the extracurricular activity on the track and in the stands, boxing promoter Harry Fabrikoff should have been present in attendance to scout for some future talent.
Oh my gosh.
The evening, which had much had promise, turned into a promoter's nightmare, and no one knows better than the track promoter Dick Steinbeck. And he says, it's not a good thing for sports, regardless of what kind of sport it is, said Steinbeck, of the incidents. We try to feature family entertainment, but an unruly crowd can make it unpleasant for everyone. The Esau-Skinner altercation and the ensuing on-track antics divided the fans, and that, along with the sale of 80 kegs of beer that evening, led to many of the problems in the grandstands. So, and as far as the problems in the stands, Steinbeck wasted little time in making changes. This is after the race. This is another article they had. So tonight, there will be security officers on hand instead of college students hired a week ago.
Oh.
It says, I'm sure it will be better, says Steinbeck, with the security. The kids did a good job, but that probably gave the college students a little more than the job they could handle. It might have worked on a nice, quiet afternoon in June. The problem on the track, however, was another headache, of which Steinbeck had agonized all week long. I don't believe I've had a longer week to try to figure out what went wrong, said Steinbeck. No one is infallible. There are going to be mistakes, and you just hope that if there are in a position where you're the wrong, we can carry and to make it right. Steinbeck held discussions with Esau and car owner Daniel Smith and came to an agreement that the team could return to the race tonight. However, Steinbeck said rowdy behavior will not be tolerated. One thing most important is that everybody understands and is impressed with the fact that nobody is to leave the pit area or they're gone, says Steinbeck. I've been assured by Daniel Smith and his crew this will not happen again. So that was a deal after the race. They basically asked us not to come back, so we obliged them not to come back. We got a lawsuit. From they sued everyone that we had, all the sponsors and stuff on the deal.
Really?
Ronnie, my partner, Craig Phillips, and the guys in machine work, Hugh Reynolds, and everybody. So I just told them, I said, hey, we had this race won. We're going to win the race. The car was extremely fast. And I said, you guys, you're the ones that pulled this thing off. I said, so, I'll say whatever you want me to say, but I want the money for the win. So they made a deal with us. If we behaved ourselves, we could come back. We had our spotter at that time was Ivan Baldwin. And I was telling Becky about him. She knows him very well. And when this thing happened and Skinner spun, well, Ivan, they never made contact. Of course, Skinner said we did, but we didn't. They looked at the car. There's no marks on it. So I was screaming for him to park the car sideways on the racetrack, and which he did, and that's what started the whole thing. But Ivan was a friend of Ronnie's, and it's just. And then from that point on, it was just on and on and on. We just had a lot of fun. They kind of got us off to a start. We had to calm down a little bit. So Ronnie did a real good job. We went to Saugus with this big block, which I was so proud of him. We went to Saugus for their championship race 100 they had, and all the hitters were there. Saugus was a very competitive racetrack. So we get to this racetrack, and I got this big block in there, and we've never been there before. I never even seen the track because I wasn't a circle racer. So we get to the track. Ronnie goes out there. He cannot get a hold of nothing. His car would not hook up. It just spin the tires. So Jimmy Enslow and a couple of guys come over there, and they're just laughing. They're cracking up, talking to Ronnie. I said, you can't hook this boat anchor up. Just giving him hell. So Ronnie's laughing a little bit. He says, I think we'll get it figured out. They said, no way you're going to figure it out. So they kept on until they pissed me off, and I told them, I said, look, you guys' mouth is moving, so once you put your hand on your wallet, let's dig a little money out. Let's bet on what car's going to have fast time here today. And they said, you're almost 2 seconds off the pace. What's wrong with you? I said, well, take my money. I have it, so let's just do it. And so they said, well, what do you want to bet? I said, just make it easier on yourself. Just get after it. I said, I'm in a hurry. We got to work on this car. So they said, well, how about 100? I said, how about 200 each? So I said, okay. So we bet $200 for who's going to have fast time. I told them this car's going to have fast time against the field. So they started to walk off. I said, hey, boys, here's the deal. I said, if we don't get fast time, I got my money. If we do have fast time, you better have yours. There are going to be some problems. And I meant it. So as they walked off, they're all laughing and stuff. So we made a change. We pulled, back in those days, it was open comp racing. So there's just no rules. Whatever you could come up with is what you ran. So I said, hey, we couldn't hook up. I said, pull the spring off the right rear shock completely. Don't put a spring on it at all. The car had 70% left side weight and 70% diagonal weight. So that's something that really made it good. So we pulled the spring off. That's all we did was take the spring off the right rear, put it in the box. Ronnie went back out there, and he's right on the track record. So they came over. All the guys come over. Their eyes are big, and they're talking about it. I said, what in the hell did you do? Ronnie goes, I don't know. He said, I don't know. They said, damn. He said that thing's picking the left front tire almost off the ground. They were talking about it, and they were all. He said, man, we were just joking. And that deal come from Tombstone.
Uh-oh.
Where he said, and I told him, I said, I wasn't. I said, so make sure you got your money. I said, make sure you got your money. So we took in for qualifying. Ronnie got fast time. And I was looking at the book there. I'm looking at the book right here. And like I told you before, Jim Thurkiller was a guy you had to run out there where you went. He was a force to contend with. So I'm looking at the times here. And Ron Esau of Lakeside in a Camaro, he ran a 1646. Jim Thurkiller of Camarillo, he ran a 1648. And then the next cars were in the 1670s. So, it was really fast. Ronnie led every lap and won that race. And that's the most thing I was proud of him was that deal. That particular deal because he had that fast. I didn't have to squeeze his tit or anything.
Daniel,
No more squeezing.
I hate to tell you, man, but we've run out of time. But, man, we are going to definitely get you back on radio because Brittany and I do an hour called Racer Radio, and we work with the young kids. We work with older drivers. Are you still involved in motorsports? You still working with kids?
Yeah, we do a little bit of junior late model stuff at Madera, and late model stuff, pro late model stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you have any drivers that could use a little media experience, we are more than happy to have them call in. Brittany schedules all my stuff, so Becky will get you her information, and we're happy to do it because, nowadays driving's one thing, representing your sponsors is another.
Right, absolutely.
Daniel,
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing.
Sure.
Ron was just a blast to be with. I miss him dearly.
Yeah, yes. I know we all do, and that's why Brittany and I have dedicated 2 hours today, and Becky will make sure you get a copy of this show to add to all the books you've been staring at.
Super. Appreciate
all right.
it.
Daniel Smith, thank you very much. Ronnie Esau's first owner.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. This is Racer Radio on FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, folks. Welcome back to Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
So, hey, Tom, do you know a guy by the name of Kenny Sapper?
I certainly do.
So you got any? You want to throw a story out there on Kenny before we let him come on air?
Absolutely. I got to meet Kenny Sapper. Well, the first time I met him, and of course every time afterwards, was at Frank Denny's Speedway Engineering. And Frank Denny was one of our fiberglass dealers for McGrath Fiberglass, and so every time I'd go up to L.A., guess who helped me unload the truck? It was Kenny Sapper, one of the best guys up there building chassis for Frank Denny and keeping Speedway Engineering up front. And I was glad to see Kenny eventually, instead of just building cars, eventually get behind the wheel and have fun racing them. And he became one hell of a shoe. Came down to Cajon Speedway several times.
Yeah.
And was a very, very respectable race car driver. And a hell of a nice guy.
Well, hey, Kenny, I couldn't have figured out a better person to introduce you, so I thought you'd appreciate Tom McGrath.
I sure do. Very thankful for the kind words, Tom. It's been a long time.
You bet.
So Kenny, I'm sure you knew Ron Esau, otherwise you wouldn't be on the line.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what we're doing is we're just collecting stories from Ronnie's past of people that worked with him. So you're on. What's some of the fond memories you have of Ronnie?
From the very first time I met Ron, we were both young, of course, and I'm working at Speedway. I'm the welder and jack of all trades over there, but he was always so confident in his ability, but he was humble about it. If a race car driver would be humble. But, because we have to be a little bit on just the side of arrogant because we have to be very, very confident in what we do. But he could wheel just about anything, and that's what I admired about him. He wasn't just an El Cajon guy. He could go anywhere.
Yeah.
When he would come to Saugus, 605, Mesa, and even in the Grand National West, of course, but whatever he was driving, I just remember him in that number one trick car, most of all, and in the Lee's iron car, especially there at Riverside. He just did so well in that. What amazed me is that he could road race and be smooth, and he could be a super sub for somebody that wasn't comfortable at the super speedways. He could get into that car and make it roll. It was really just, there was something about his ability.
Well, it was from what everybody that I've talked to, it was like a natural talent. His brother Larry was amazing as well. I remember
when I first started driving, watching his brother clean everybody's clocks at 605 Speedway in Irwindale there. But what always, he was like the super sub. He could just about do anything. And I think the open comp races were his like playground, if you want to call it that, if you know what I mean, Tom. So if you wanted to win those races, and if he was in them, he was one of the guys you had to beat, or you weren't going to win.
Mm.
Just that simple. Just that simple. And he was always smiling at a challenge. If there was a challenge to be had, he wanted it. But I just remember him and Thurkettle going at it at Riverside, and I think he came out on top. But there was good times and bad times, of course.
Well, yeah. Well, the story Dan just brought out. I mean, who takes a spring off of a car and throws the driver out there, and he runs fast time? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. He had a natural talent for sure.
It's
for
like
sure. We didn't run on a weekly basis ever together. The only time I ran with him was in the open comp races, and I don't remember us ever having an issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a hard competitor.
Well, that's the other thing I heard too. I mean, you race him hard, he'll race you hard.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny?
That's what we live for.
Yeah.
Hey,
We
Kenny?
live for those days.
Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, you mentioned 605 Irwindale, the old 605, not the new one, the Toyota Speedway, whatever it is. That used to be the Esau's playground for sure. I went up there one week for a race with George and Ronnie was driving that 61 convertible Pontiac Tempest, the yellow and blue car, George Camaro. And that night at 605, there was the who's who of short track racing represented on that track. I mean, there, Joe Ruttman, and you'll never forget this car, the Haddock's Towing Firebird, that black Mamba that was, looked like it had a track record just sitting on the trailer. I mean, that was a mean machine. And anyways, they started this race, and I think it was Jim Robinson, that got on the inside of Ronnie and run him up into the crash wall. And he had to come into the infield and make some repairs. And he was just totally pissed off. And he's on a mission back to the field and came through that field of all-star drivers. I can't remember if he won the race or not, but he was the show that night. And I think of the old Mae West saying, when I'm good, I'm good. When I'm bad, I'm better. And I said, don't ever piss Esau off if you want to win a race.
That's absolutely right. And probably Sonny Easley was probably in the mix. And
you're right.
Maggio and like you said, it was those nights at 605 were special.
Yep.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Pardon?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. I mean, it was a hell of a race. And, Ronnie was always driving, had that big smile on his face while he was driving, those little bubble goggles that he used to wear. But he came in, he didn't have that big smile on his face. He was so mad at getting run up and rubbed into the crash wall. He just turned, he just turned into an animal. He's like the Hulk turning green, man.
Well, just like I said, you race him hard, he's going to race you right back hard. And I love these stories because this, corny as it sounds, this is when racing was racing. I mean, and it all depended on how you handled yourself on the track. And Tom, you of all people know that a lot of tracks would literally hire some guy just to be the bad guy.
Yeah, well, we never had to hire any of those. we had a good share of those, man.
We should have hired
There
him to go
comes that.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that was a loaded question, and I just couldn't help myself.
Well, one thing about racing and the full circle is that when Jim Robinson was very gravely injured at Phoenix, Ronnie was the one that the family asked to please go to Australia and race the car because
Wow.
the car had been sent over with all the pit equipment in a container. It had already been ready.
Oh.
And Jim got a late call to run a Run What You Brung race at Copper Classic, but at that time it wasn't sanctioned by anything. It was just a race that we did. And so when Jim was hurt, the family asked Ronnie to go drive Jim Robinson's car. And so he went over and raced that car in Australia for the Robinson family.
And how do you do?
He did well. He did well. It was just so bittersweet because just to have the car competing and it gave the family a break, and we were all sitting in the hospital in Phoenix, for weeks and weeks. And so it was it was something that meant a lot to Ronnie to be able to do that for his friend Jim.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great effort on Ron's part too.
Plus, he's never been to Australia.
That probably didn't hurt.
Yeah, that's too far away. They got to drag that island a little closer than I'll go to. So
yeah.
So what are you doing now, Kenny?
Well, I'm still running Speedway Engineering with the help of a great crew.
Cool.
I made a deal with Frank Daney before he passed away that we'd run it for his family, and we're still doing it. So my wife finally retired out of there, but I'm there every day.
There you go.
Putting together the quick changes again and talking on the phone. It's just a place. I've got to go someplace for coffee in the morning,
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Tom McGrath has decided to hit the road.
I found some of his old fiberglass the other day.
Did you really?
I did. I was upstairs rooting around for some stuff, and I come across some fiberglass trunks, and I went, "Oh my gosh, look at this!"
And I bet they were still in top-notch condition.
Yeah, they were brand new. They're brand new. Right now, we've expanded into some street rod stuff, and I'm at a Good Guys car show in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh,
right now.
Cool.
It's about ready to be done, but it's always a nice. Well, and I'm not going to say distraction, but it's nice to do something different than racing.
Yeah, no, I get it. Do you come down to Good Guys in Del Mar?
Every once in a while we have.
All right. Well, if you're coming down this year, let me know, and I might be out there with some television, and we'll give you a little bit of airtime.
Okay.
All right.
Haven't decided yet.
Yeah,
I have not decided yet.
I don't blame you. It's a little bit of a hike. All right. So now is Kenny staying with us for the next segment?
Kenny's going to stay with us to be on the radio with Joey Mancari.
You know this guy, Joey Mancari?
Oh, my gosh.
And Tom, do you know Joey?
No, I don't, Dave.
Well, guess what? You're going to get edumacated because this is going to be good for everybody in the circle. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're all listening to Racer Radio. This is the Ron Esau Memorial Show. And guess what? Racer Radio will continue on at 3 o'clock for more in-depth conversations with the Ron Esau Fan Club right here on FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, folks, welcome back to Racer Radio. This is the Ron Esau Memorial Show. Britney Sandoval's in the house, and so
just
is
listening
Becky
today.
McBride. Yeah, you're just soaking it up.
Yeah.
This is FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, so Becky, do you want to introduce our next guest?
Well, Joey Mancari was my boss, and he survived. And we had quite
He survived
a
being your
wonderful
boss?
relationship.
Yeah, he survived.
He's still alive. And we had some great trips all over, and I learned a lot from Joey. And he and Ronnie had a special friendship, and he was looking forward to sharing that.
Well, that's good. Hey, Joey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing?
Well, like I said, we hate doing this type of a show, but we just felt it was important, that we've dedicated 2 hours to Ronnie, and by bringing in guys like you that have had experience. I got Tom McGrath, who was the announcer at Cajon Speedway, actually raced himself, even had a little fiberglass business. He figured as much cars as he tore up, it'd be better if he made all his own stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, Tom. I
think he heard you, Dave.
I being her boss.
Yeah.
I understand.
I being her boss.
I heard
That's what
that.
I heard.
It slipped.
By the way, we also got Kenny Sapper on the line. He says he might know you.
Yeah, I might know Kenny for a few years here. I used to joke around that I used to watch Kenny race when I was a little kid.
Oh, snaps.
Snap.
Really
Age.
And
good.
I always tell this to Kenny, or when I introduce him to somebody to him, I'd say that. And while it's partially true, I wasn't that young, so I can't give Kenny that hard of a time. But I survived being Becky's boss because I would let her vent when she needed to.
Oh,
she literally told me one time over the radio that she wasn't talking to me.
Oh, I got to tell you, I'm not talking to you.
Really?
That's right.
Becky.
I needed a timeout.
Wow. Yeah, she could be tough. I have to agree.
She's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So what was your relationship with Ronnie?
My relationship with Ronnie was just being a guy that kind of grew up at first, just like I was with Kenny, being a fan.
Yeah.
Young guy at a racetrack here in Las Vegas, watching these guys come up from Southern California, Kenny from the LA area and Ronnie from down in the San Diego, El Cajon area come up here and just, so on a lot of occasions, making our local drivers kind of look bad because they come up here and really whoop up on us. And I got to know these guys through just years of being a huge race fan and a huge fan of all forms of racing. You always get these people, they're like, I'm a stock car fan, I'm a NASCAR fan, I'm a drag racing fan, I love road racing, and it's like, I like all racing. Mm-hmm. And, the good thing about Ronnie is you could actually go and see him at a road course. You could see him at these different racetracks. You'd go to Riverside and all of a sudden you're like, hey, Ronnie's in the field for the cup race. And you're like, wow. Yeah. And it was neat stuff like that. And the fact that, I might get choked up, guys, so don't.
No. Trust me.
Judge.
Don't hit the dump button on me. But I'll tell you, that I told Becky this a few weeks back. His voice will always be in my head.
Yeah.
And I'll always see a smile.
Yeah. Oh, no. And that's why we did this. This is why we've had all these people call in. And trust me, you're not the first one that's been choked up. David, he didn't even come in today because he wanted to stay home and sit back and actually soak it all in. Because, this is such... Yeah, I wish we would have done this with Ronnie sitting in the studio. That's my only regret. But he's listening. I know he's listening. And, because everybody he touched, it was, it left a beautiful memory of a guy that, loved to race. He loved his fellow man. He'd help anybody, to be competitive. He may not give you all his secrets, but he gave you enough to be competitive enough that where he could beat you.
Yeah, I had friends from up here, we'd go race Copper Classic down in Phoenix. And, if you were struggling, Ron was one of the first people to come up to you and say, so what do you think the problem is?
Yeah.
And then he'd give you a suggestion on what he thought you could do. Kenny was the same way. Whenever we would go down and race at the Orange Show or we'd race over at Saugus and, our local guys were having a hard time, the guys that knew how to run those racetracks were willing to give us recommendations. And, and then Ron, whenever I'd see him at the Irwindale Speedway, he threatened to come over and become a NASCAR official with us. And I knew that probably wasn't a path he should follow. Becky's probably the best example of a true NASCAR official. And that's just because she keeps her personality is such that she keeps everybody in the garage from killing each other. You know, she makes sure that we all stay in line, but she's almost like the therapist for the NASCAR, or now the ARCA Menards West Series.
Right.
You know, whenever we would need something or a driver was frustrated, you know, the spotters were getting ready to throw punches on the spotter stand, she would make sure that we calmed down and had a good time. And whenever we would see Ron at the racetrack and he'd threaten to become an official, I'd say, Ron, you're a racer. You know, you're a race car driver. You don't want to do this, you know, and Becky will probably agree with that.
Right? Yeah, she's bobbing her head. No doubt about it. So Kenny, so what did you do with Joey? I mean, since he idolized you.
Well, Joey was a young man in the garage area and in the grandstands at Craig Road Speedway. And we would go up. We would go up there when Saugus wasn't running on a semi-regular basis, but it wasn't exactly a cakewalk up there. Those competitors up there, the Jimmy Sandersons and the Phil Hayes and the Ruperts, for crying out loud, those guys were tough. But when they'd come down to Saugus on that flat track, you know, it's just as flat as a Sears parking lot. You know, they would need some help, and we would want to have a good race with them, so we'd help them all we could.
Sure. That's amazing.
You know? And like you say, you're not going to tell them everything, but you can. When we were building chassis from in the early 70s until the mid 80s, they were pretty darn competitive about everywhere they went. And we had a guidebook that we would hand out with the chassis as they left the shop.
Yeah.
And if you would run it according to that guidebook, you'd be in the top of the fast heat race.
Wow.
And they were pretty darn easy to wheel around.
Yeah. So Joey, you're still involved in motorsports in Vegas, right?
I am. Yeah, I've just gotten back to Vegas. I've been back here for a little over a month.
Oh.
I spent some time after leaving NASCAR doing rallycross, which, you know, Ron came to one of our races at the Port of Los Angeles and checked that out. And, you know, rallycross got really big here for about 5 years. I even had Becky come over. She was a spotter official. You'll have to ask her off air how it felt to be a spotter official with a bunch of Swedes and Finnish people up in the spotter stand.
The part you forgot to tell me was there was no language
English.
Yeah, Becky says you forgot to tell her they don't speak English.
Like they didn't speak English.
They acted like
I see.
I think it was an act.
So let me ask you this. We've been telling these great stories on Ron and how he's always willing to help. Do you see that in today's motorsports? Or are the sponsorships too big and winning is so big that nobody shares anything?
No, we still see it. I think some of the other people that are going to call in, you know, like Dave Reed. I think Dave Reed's one of those type of guys that will do anything for any race car driver as long as they're helping. You know, my now boss here in Vegas, who's been a friend of mine for a lot of years, Craig Hugh, that owns all the Star Nursery locations here in Nevada, Arizona, and Utah, was a car owner in the Southwest Tour where Ron was the first champion. And Craig's right now not just supporting one particular driver, but he's supporting all the drivers here at the bull ring at the Speedway here in Las Vegas.
Awesome.
And he actually has me helping with motorsports marketing as part of what I'm doing for him. And I'm reaching out to racetracks that are in the other areas where we race, like Havasu 95 Speedway and Mojave Valley Raceway in Fort Mojave, Arizona, to get involved there, spend some money, buying some signage. So, you know, it's not just the helping with the race cars, but it's just the community that helps itself, you know, helps each other inside of it. And I think we still see it today, probably not in the extent of when, you know, with Ron and Kenny in the 80s and 90s and the 70s. back in the 90s, I was building a car for with the dad of a young kid up here in Vegas, and I called Kenny and I said, hey, I need a rear end for this hobby stock, super stock car I'm building up here in Vegas. He goes, yeah, what do you want? And I told him, and I said, well, I'm hearing about this thing called putting camber in the rear end. He goes, yeah, it'd probably help you. And I said, so what do I need? And he goes, well, what are you trying to do? And I said, Kenny, I don't know. You're the expert. Yeah. And that man right there, Kenny Sapper, sent us a rear end housing for this early 70s Camaro, and along with that and some of the other little things that this guy named Tom Bush and I did to this car, we had a pretty good race car. But I think we had a kind of a good driver, too. We had this kid named Kurt Busch driving for us.
That might have helped a little bit. All right, buddy. Hey, thank you very, very much for taking time out of your day to call in.
No worries, guys. I feel privileged and honored just to be asked to do this, so thank you very much.
It's totally our pleasure. Totally. Kenny, I don't think they got you on anymore. Nope. But I think we got Joey on one more segment. So, Joey, don't go anywhere. Tom, stick around. You're listening to Racer Radio on FM 96.1, AM 1170.
PM.
All right, folks, we're doing the Ron Esau Memorial. We got Becky McBride in the house, Britney Sandoval, and online, Tom McGrath, the announcer at Cajon Speedway. So, hey, Tom, do you know a Joey Moncari?
I don't know if I know him or not. If he was an official with NASCAR when, we used to get the Southwest Tour.
He was.
I probably ran into him. Or he stood up there in the press box with me calling the shot.
What do you think, Joey? Do you know this guy, Tom McGrath?
I met Tom, I believe. Becky introduced us. We ran the Southwest Tour at Cajon 2 years when I was the director. Shame of the matter that you guys lost a great racetrack there. Yeah. Loved coming down there. The only dilemma we ever had with the Southwest Tour there was having to unload the cars and park the haulers outside.
Oh, yeah.
My best Cajon story is I actually had a guy that needed to pay a fine at the track for something he did at a race before the Cajon race, and him and his car owner decided they'd be cute and tried to pay the fine in rolled pennies. And I didn't let them unload their race car until they went till one of the banks nearby opened, and they went and got us actual cash to pay the fine.
Don't blame you.
Okay, so sounds to me like you might have some more good Ron Esau stories.
Well, that's the type of things that you could expect from Ron. I mean, he might have taught Alan Beebe and Eric Holmes that little gift, that little gag right there that didn't go over very well. Those are the things that we did to have a good time. After a Copper Classic was over, or during the race week down in Phoenix once, we were all at a bar, and I had, in 1989, I got hit by a race car and broke both of my legs, and have stainless steel rods in my legs to this day. But I think Ron was at this place with me, my brother, and some other racers, and the guy that ran the Goodyear tire truck and whatnot. And we were having a few cocktails and some beers, and all the guys got together, and my brother told the story about how they take the metal implants out of your legs, and all we needed was a slide hammer and a few tools. Oh. And he had everybody in that bar convinced that we were going to do it right there on one of the pool tables. So I talked them all out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds just about right. But, so that's... Yeah, it's amazing, the stories, and we will definitely get you a copy of these 2 hours we've done with Ron, because I'm sure you'll enjoy sitting back and listening to him.
I look forward to it. I really do.
So, Tom.
Yes, sir.
So, how did the Southwest Tour do when they came to Cajon?
Well, it was an event that we always had circled on our calendars as because you had a classy bunch of drivers. I don't know if classy is the right word. You had a bunch of drivers that, in many cases, were track champions at the tracks they represented and came from. So, you know, it was, again, one of those all-star nights and of racing. And, you know, you just, you know, you saw the best of the best, and these guys, you know, gave no quarter, asked no quarter, and put on a good show almost every time.
Yeah, exactly. So now did Ron come up and race in your division?
Up here in Vegas, oh yeah, he ran. You know, back in the '70s, we called our premier division A cars. You know, it was the premier car, Grand American cars, and that's what he ran up here. You know, you'd see that yellow number. Gosh darn it, because he ran a couple of different numbers up here because we would have conflicting numbers, but we'd see the Esau cars, George and Ron's cars, come off the trailers, or you know. Back then, we all showed up in open trailers, which I still think is how race cars should go to the racetrack today. Yeah. But they'd show up, and we'd be like, okay, that's two more that we got to beat. You know, but when we ran, the tour racing was really good, you know, and Ron kind of set the bar in 1986 by winning the first championship, you know, for the Southwest Tour, and it was that tour series was the premier traveling NASCAR series. And I hate to say this because then, you know, shortly after during the time that I was the Southwest Tour director, I also became the NASCAR at that time. Well, we'll just call it West Series because right now it's the ARCA Menards West Series. Mm-hmm. I became the race director, and then finally the director for that. But you know, the tour cars really were the ones that people came to see. We'd go to Phoenix. We'd go to Sears Point. We'd race. You know, I when I was operations director at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we ran them one year in 1997. We ran the Southwest Tour at our short track twice. It was now the Bull Ring twice. We ran them on the road course inside the Super Speedway once, and we ran them on the mile-and-a-half oval one time that year.
Wow.
So, and I only ran the West Series there two times. So that tells you how much that series had to offer. And Ron was a big part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, it's like half steering wheel will travel. It just seems like he would go anywhere and everywhere, never cared about what the track was, what the layout was, what the condition was. He just liked to race.
And adapted.
Oh, yeah.
And adapted. Yeah, that's very good. You're right, Tom. And he did it probably quicker than most.
You know, that's the whole key when you go out of town racing is learning the setups and adapting to what the track gives you and what it doesn't give you. You know, and I used to always talk to the racers in the pits, whether it be Southwest Tour guys or super modifieds or, you know, whatever touring division was coming to Cajon Speedway. And I go in there and start talking to them, and they were, you know, having a hard time getting hold of the track or whatever. And I'm going, hey, don't forget, a lot of people don't realize there is an outside here at Cajon Speedway. Everybody kept on hugging the pole like they were at the Orange Show. And I'm going, don't be afraid to go to the outside. There's enough banking there in the corners that'll hold you inside the track. And as soon as they figure that out, they got their race cars going forward and put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, we miss Ron dearly, and we appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday to call in, Joey, and share some of your stories. We'll be giving this 2 hours to the family for them to keep. And like I said, I don't know if you noticed it, but there's no commercials at all in this 2 hours. Right. And I did that intentionally. Not that I don't like my sponsors. It's just that I felt it was important that this would be what I would call a clean show for the family to enjoy and just listen to Tom cackle.
No, I appreciate, you know, I really feel very honored and privileged that I was included in the people that have called in and in your show to talk about a great guy and your show, the Racer Show. I mean, you know, one of the biggest compliments I think we could pay anybody that's involved in racing is to call them a racer.
Yep. Without a doubt.
Ron was a race.
You got it, buddy. Hey, thanks a million. And like I said, if you ever have the desire to call in, or if you got a young driver that's coming up but maybe isn't that good in media, hey, we're here to help them. We'll walk them through it. We'll do the interview and make sure they talk about their sponsors.
We'll do it for sure. Thanks again.
All right, buddy. Hey, Tom, hang in there. It's almost over. Right?
Hey, no problem.
All right, good.
Thank you, Joey.
Hey, we got Dave Reed coming up next. You know that guy?
I know Dave Reed. Yes, I do.
If he tells any stories on you, we'll have to wait and see.
Stories on me.
Racer Radio, folks. FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, folks. Welcome back to Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, folks. We're doing the Ron Esau Memorial, and we've only got a little bit of time left. We got Tom McGrath on the line. We got Becky McBride in studio. And now we've got Dave Reed. Becky, you want to tell us about Dave?
Well, Dave Reed is a fixture on the West Coast, and we all appreciate him so much. He's a first-class guy, and we're all really lucky to be friends with him. And I know that there's a lot of young drivers that he's given the opportunity to, so we just appreciate him.
And you said everything a driver got to when they got to Dave Reed was 5-star.
Yes,
5-star.
you did.
So that's a pretty good compliment, Dave.
Yeah, thank you for that, Becky. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on, Dave.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And we got Britney Sandoval in the house. She's a school teacher by trade, but she races on the dirt on the weekends. So she's my co-host, and she just does a phenomenal job. So, and we got Tom McGrath in the wings. I'm sure you probably know Tom.
Yes, Tom. Good to hear from you.
Nice to hear from you, Dave.
Yeah, it's great to be on the Ron Esau story time here, because there sure are a lot of them. I know,
Boy.
There's not enough time to cover them all, that's for sure. But one thing Ronnie and I always talked about is writing a book, and unfortunately that never came to fruition. But that's just how many great stories there are.
Yeah, right. And at least in a book you could do it.
Yeah, exactly. When I first met Ronnie at Cohen Speedway, I came down and helped a guy by the name of Craig Rodman, who's been driving for me for 30 years. And this guy comes bopping over, and Ronnie's like the epitome of a male pit lizard. And if he wasn't racing, he would just pop from pit to pit and say hello and just happy-go-lucky Ronnie. That smile and that grin, and just meeting anybody and everybody he could. So that was my first experience meeting Ronnie. And we actually ended up winning that race, so that was pretty cool. Went a couple times down there at Cohen Speedway in the Southwest Tour, but it was soon after. It was probably, I think it was 97, Becky, and you were part of this deal. I had bought a car from Darrell Waltrip, an old Cup car, to run out here at California Speedway when the track first opened. And I had a couple of Craftsman trucks back in the day, and I had Dan Press driving those. And so the motors in those were 9-1, but the package that the West Series ran, you could run a big Cup motor, and which is a 14-1. So we put this deal together, and I said, I asked Craig, I said, you're going to drive this? And he goes, I'm not really ready to go 200 miles an hour, so I think you're going to have to find somebody else. So I asked Dan Press, who was our crew chief at the time, and he says, those days are gone for me. I'm not getting in there doing 200 miles an hour. But he says, I got a guy. I know a guy. And, as you know, and we all know Ronnie, it's kind of like the old Life cereal commercial.
Yes.
Hey, let's ask Mikey. He'll do anything. Mikey. And so I hit up Ronnie, and Ronnie's like, yeah, of course I'll do it, So the stage is set. And, because Ronnie was kind of this fill-in guy, too, at a lot of these big tracks, because, he'd run all the stuff back east and the big tracks. And before I get into this, I asked him, I said, you're okay to do this? He says, oh, yeah, I think it was Ned Jarrett told me. He says, Ronnie says, well, what do you do when you get in the corner at Daytona? And he says, Ned Jarrett says, you just lift your big toe and keep your foot on the ground. And that's what Ronnie told me. He says, that's what I did, So anyways, we shake the car down at Rialto Airport, and they make a couple passes up and down the airport. It's kind of like Gillespie Field right there, a little Muni. Mm-hmm. And
then Ronnie makes a couple passes up and down, and they put the car back in the trailer, and here comes a bunch of cops rolling up.
Oh boy!
And they put the door up real quick and act like nothing's going on. And the guy said, "Where's that race car?" And everybody's like, "Well, there's no race car here." Like, "Oh, we wanted to hear it run. We wanted to see it." So I think Ronnie probably signed a couple autographs or something there. But anyways, that race went well. It was the first time, obviously, at California Speedway that it opened. So there was probably 20 Cup cars in this race because they all wanted to get, track time.
Sure.
And these guys all brought their their B car, which was, probably way better than anything we had. But we go out for practice, and I'm spotting, and I'm asking Ronnie, how's the car doing? And he's not really answering me. And I said, Ronnie, you got me? He says, he's going down the back straightaway, and he goes, this place is amazing. And I said, I know, but Ronnie, how's the race car? He says, do you see all these palm trees back here? This place is beautiful. And I'm like, but Ronnie, how was the race car? And he said, oh, yeah, Dave, the car's fine. Yeah, this is a piece of cake. Anyways, he ran a great race. He was amazing. We were the second non-regular. We finished sixth in that race. I think Kenny Schrader or somebody won it, a couple Cup guys, and I think Brendan Gaughan was the only one that beat us that was, a regular West competitor. So, I mean, that was almost a win for us. I mean, that was, David and Goliath. I mean,
yeah.
We didn't really belong there, but Ronnie just wheeled that thing. It was pretty cool, but my next story here is we go to Topeka, Kansas a few months later, and it must be 120 degrees out. And I walk into this restaurant, and here comes Ronnie and Kevin Clark walking out. What are you guys doing here? How come you didn't tell me you were coming here? Oh, we just came to check it out and have a good time and, hang out. So the next day, Ronnie says, hey, you want me to spot for Craig? And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't have to do it. I can kind of just, kick back and watch the race and not, have to spot. And I really wasn't comfortable spotting back in the day. And I don't know, we're probably halfway through the race, and Craig gets into somebody, and the crush panel in the left front gets messed up, and there's carbon monoxide coming into the cockpit of the car. And Craig's he's carbon monoxide poisoning. He doesn't even know where he's at. Ronnie's talking him in. And I run up to the grandstands, and I go, I know Ronnie. He never goes anywhere without his driving suit, right? So I said, Ronnie, I'm in a spot. Go down, get your driver's suit on. You got to get in this car. So Ronnie talks Craig in. He go left, stop here, hit the gas. He was just completely delirious. So a couple of my guys grabbed Craig out of the car. One of them, he's probably like 6'6" and 280 pounds, and he just picks Ronnie up like a little baby, puts him in the car. And so Ronnie, they get him all buckled in, and of course there's a caution. So for our situation, so a road course, and we gather up the field and everything. And Ronnie goes back out on the track, and he goes, "Oh my gosh!" I go, "What's going on?" Ronnie goes, "I'm leading, and I haven't been on this track in like 15 years. What do I do?" I go, "Ronnie, you got Austin Cameron, which is a local, San Diego driver there, right behind you." I said, "We go green. I want you to let Austin go, and you just follow him through, and just until you get the hang of it." Well, being Ronnie, he didn't listen to any of that. So for the first lap, he's beating and banging with everybody, and he didn't let anybody go by, of course, not intentionally, anyways. But he actually brought the car back home again in the sixth place finish. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good deal.
Well, and
Ronnie,
go ahead.
Yeah, just to fall into Ronnie was always up for an adventure, So Ronnie, we became obviously great friends, and we go to Phoenix and watch, the likes of Brian Eichler, and we travel to Montana. I mean, we'd go everywhere, We just had a good time with each other and enjoyed each other's company. And we decided one year, I'm going to guess maybe 15, 18 years ago, let's go to the All-Star race in Charlotte. So we fly out there. We have a good time. We go to the Richard Childress shop and welcome up there. And Ronnie goes, I know a bunch of these people. I used to race with all these guys, and there's a lady that works here, and I'm going to see if she can get us like a private tour. And I'm like, Ronnie, this is how many years ago? I said, there's no way this lady's working there. So I'm roaming around, and of course Ronnie gets lost, and I can't find him anywhere. And then some lady comes up and she says, "Hey, are you Dave Reed?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Hey, Chocolate Myers and Steve Post and Ronnie are in doing a radio show on Sirius Satellite Radio." I go, wait a minute. How did this happen? She goes, "They want you in there." So Ronnie's sitting in there in Richard Childress's office, and with, Steve Post and Chocolate Myers in there talking, old Riverside stories. Cause, Ronnie was out there racing with all these guys, and they were good friends with him, and they all wanted to, they all learned from Ronnie out there at Riverside, because Ronnie was the man out there. And that was before my time, but that was a pretty cool deal. But, I was kind of like a kid in a candy store because, like most people, I was a fan before I became a car owner.
Right.
And so, and that race is really hard to get garage passes unless you know somebody like Becky now, because all the Cup guys back there, that's where they're based, and they would bring their friends and family to that race. So
sure.
I was coming from California. It was hard, and I can't remember how we got them, but Ronnie got us some passes, and we're sitting on top of Dale Earnhardt's hauler with, Jerry Baxter. We got Mark Green. I mean, all these guys, James Hilton. I mean, Ronnie's just walking through the pits. Like, he knew everybody.
Wow.
And everybody knew Ronnie. Like, I think somebody earlier said Dan Smith or something. I mean, Ronnie just knew everybody. He was just happy-go-lucky, friendly, and everybody loved him, But, yeah, that was a pretty cool deal, too. But we just had a good time, and, that smile, that it was just so, affectionate and, addicting for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, man, I tell you, this has been awesome. We appreciate you taking time out. I think, you're going to stay for one more segment because we've got Craig coming on. And Tom, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Go ahead.
Tom knows Craig. I just wanted to tell Dave that Leslie still works for RCR, and she's still the main girl.
Wow.
So she's still there.
Really?
That's awesome.
All right. Well, that's good to know because nobody was a bigger Earnhardt fan than I am. I have my shrine, and maybe one of these days I'll talk Becky into hooking me up so I can go back and see the facility because, man, I don't know. It's going to be the hardest thing I'll ever do in my life. I'm here to tell you.
Well, and Ronnie kind of had that Earnhardt mustache too.
Yes, yes.
So.
Well, I've got to tell you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would go up and help Ronnie at Irwindale Speedway. Just the last 10 years he would run out there in the super late model, and I, if I was off, I'd go help him and spot for him, and I sponsored Ronnie too here and there. And I'm driving up, and it was an off-cup weekend, and Sirius is playing a recap of, I don't know what year it was, Riverside Raceway. And here I'm going up to help Ronnie. And all of a sudden I hear this, and Ron Esau passes Richard Petty for the lead. And I was just like, are you kidding me? What are the chances of this?
Yeah, what are the chances? That's awesome. All right, don't touch that dial, folks. And Craig, don't go anywhere. I mean, Dave, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right here on Racer Radio. FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Racer Radio. FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right. I got my...
So we have owner and racer on now.
And what's Craig's last name?
Rodman.
Let me write that down. Hey, Craig, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Nice.
Don't I make a great radio host?
Ay, ay,
What the
ay.
hell is that guy's name?
What's that guy's name?
Yeah, what's that guy? Who is that guy?
I'm pretty sure I've said the name Craig Rodman multiple times.
I
in
know,
my
but
life.
who were you talking about off air?
My wife does it a lot of times.
Yeah, I know. Well,
and your middle name probably
they were all
as well.
talking about Dale Earnhardt off the air, and I'm kind of an idol, and so I blanked out, so I apologize for that. We also have Dave on the line as well, Dave Reed. Tom McGrath. Craig, do you know Tom McGrath?
Not positive on that one.
He was our announcer, Craig, when you won the Southwest Tour race
at
Cajon
Speedway. You can't miss him.
Cajon with the big eagle.
There you go. Now you know
Oh
that.
my God! Yeah,
That's-
that. Yes, Okay.
Yes.
I really feel upset that I pronounced his name properly. Everything.
Oh.
God, Craig.
You know,
It happens.
hit the wall multiple times. You know, you have no problem.
Yeah. All right. So we got Dave, and I guess Dave, Craig, you ran a lot with Dave back in the day.
Ran a lot of things with Dave.
Oh, we're not going there.
A lot of things. Yeah.
So you got any Ron Esau stories?
I don't know if I have too many I can talk about on the radio, but
That's what we hear.
A few. I mean, you know, one of the very first times the first time I ever saw Ron racing was when I was racing at Shasta Speedway, sportsman class, but working my way up the deal, and it was the Southwest Tour the very first year they come to town, and usually we're used to seeing the Winston West cars come there, and they're like boring, slow, off the gas, longer than they're on the gas. And these Southwest Tour cars come, and they're like just faster than heck, And he wins the race and ends up winning the championship. And that's the first time in the McDonald's car, number 56, white with blue numbers. I remember it exactly. And I remember that day. And then I quit racing after that for a while, and I followed the tour for a long time, and that was my first time seeing those cars, and that was something I always wanted to do, and that's what I tried to do after that point.
That's amazing.
And then down the road later, before Dave and I ever hooked up, I worked my way through things, and there was a guy named Dave Bird, who's a well-known Central California badass racer, dirt track guy that's done everything, and he drove for a guy named Ray Miller in a Ford, and I used to work on that car and help them, and I was always at their shop and stuff because, at some point maybe he was going to move on or something, and I was hoping I would get a chance to drive that car. And my first time was at Phoenix, Arizona, and showed up there, and I was, pretty intimidated, pretty scared, and drivers meeting and stuff, and I actually got to meet Ron then, and this is the story I'll never forget. Is he's talking to me and giving me some encouragement and stuff, and he says, "Hey man, I start right in front of you. Just follow me, follow me through, and we'll go to the front." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And we get going. We're like 10, 15 laps down, and I'm right behind Ronnie. And coming off turn 2 at Phoenix, he just plows the wall down.
Oh.
And then skids off to the inside, and I'm like, well, hell, what am I supposed to do now? And I was so on that. Yeah.
And
Fun story with him.
how did you do? How did you finish?
I'm not positive. Somewhere 5th or 6th. I have a hard time remembering, but somewhere around there. It turned out pretty good for us. Not so good for Ronnie, but he was always, and that's the thing about Ron. If you knew him, the guy always had a smile that could sell you anything, and always happy and always willing to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was. That's the biggest thing. No matter who you were, what you were doing, always had that attitude, man. He'd do anything for you.
Yeah, and I think that's synonymous to the memorial to Ron Esau. Is one was his smile, and two was his willing to help. And somebody called him a pit lizard.
Yeah, Dave Reed. The male version, because if he didn't have a seat, he was going to find one. So he was going car to car. You feeling okay? You don't look good. You're looking a little beaked.
He worked it always. He worked it really hard. Yeah, definitely.
Well, he wanted to drive. He just wanted to drive. That's all there was to it.
He did a lot of that.
And did well, too. I mean, let's face
Absolutely.
it. That's amazing. So,
are you there, Dave Reed?
I'm here, and just to cap on that, as everybody has said that Ronnie would help anybody. And, but the thing, and he, hey, I'm struggling, I'm doing this or whatever. And Ronnie would say, hey, do this and that with your car or whatever. And then, but they all still knew that they had to go beat him out there, and he wasn't even worried about it. You know, and he was such a mentor to so many people. I mean, you know, young little Ricky Schlick that drove for us a few times. Him and Ronnie became the best of friends, and you know, Ronnie just mentored and helped these kids. And I mean, he did that, Becky, with, gosh, I don't know. I mean, the Wits, Brendan Gaughan. I mean, there were so many
Walker
people that he
Evans.
helped.
I mean, the list was long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many household famous race car drivers that he helped. And, you know, one of the stories, how about the time, Becky, when he was up at trying to find a ride, he's up there helping Monroe, Washington for the truck race.
Oh, with Kenny Schrader.
Kenny Schrader sticks his thumb in the fan belt and rips it off, cuts his thumb off, and of course, you know, Ronnie never goes anywhere without his driver's suit. So next thing you know, Ronnie's in the, you know, Kenny Schrader truck.
That's exactly what happened when he lost his thumb. They said if you want to get it sewed back on, you'll be able to race in this amount of time, or if you want us to just leave the thumb off, you can race in this amount of time. So everybody does a thumbs up to Kenny because he has no thumb. He has no top of his thumb because he wanted to race sooner. So he said, put it on ice, but I'm not going to put it back on. And Ronnie got in the truck and did very well. It was a very competitive truck that night. So
Really?
Yeah, that's a fair. And so everyone knows the Kenny Schrader thumb story.
That is amazing. Yeah, that's what I love about this. I mean, we're learning so many stories. You know, that's amazing. What would you do that, Brittany, if you lost the tip of your thumb?
What I do, I'd have
Just-
it put on ice.
Yeah, just throw it away and just get back in the car.
Yeah, just to go racing.
She's looking at her.
Well, I'm looking at I did lose the tip of one of my fingers. Yeah.
Not on a race car, right?
Right before our nationals. Yeah. So we got like glue on our drive up there, and
Just glue
and
it
then
back on?
yeah, and the guys next to me were like, "You just got to man up and put your gloves on," that kind of thing.
And you did.
Yeah, I'm still missing the tip.
And this is the best part of it is, so Craig has, you know, his stories and Dave has his stories, and Ronnie needed a score. So I got to go along to all these adventures and I would score pen and paper, which a lot of people don't even realize that's the way we used to do it. But electronic scoring did not happen until recent. So every team had to have a score. So sometimes we'd be racing against Craig. Sometimes Craig would be on our team. You know, it just depended on if Ronnie was spotting and I was scoring and Craig was our driver. Go, Craig, go. And then it's Ronnie's driving. Go, Ronnie, go. You know, so, but at the end of the night, we all couldn't wait to see each other and be together.
Jeez. I can't imagine scoring with paper and pencil. I mean, you have to concentrate so hard.
Well, Saugus.
What about going to a place like Orange Show?
Yeah, Orange Show's quarter mile,
El
Saugus quarter mile.
Cajon or,
Yeah,
I mean, places like that. I mean, it's insane to sit there with people like trying to keep track of this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's always somebody asking you a question, right?
Right. Leave me alone.
They don't talk to us, but the good scores could do 2 cars.
No.
How many could you do?
2.
Oh, see, there you go.
I
knew
wasn't going to be an underachiever.
Becky,
Yes.
Becky, were you able to ever give anybody a lap back?
Well, there's a secret way you could do that.
scores-
If you were not running good.
Scores. Those are the ones that made the big money. To get
Yeah,
you a lap
yeah.
ahead.
If you weren't running well, you could get a lap back because they're not paying attention to you. They're looking at the leaders.
The trade secret's coming out.
All of a sudden, I got
Yeah,
real
hopefully
popular.
Hopefully Mark Reed's listening to this because he had the best score of all. He always could get a couple of races to get a lap ahead. Amazing.
I don't know about you guys.
Oh, we have great times, don't we?
So Craig, what are you doing now?
I'm actually sitting at a racetrack right now watching my kids race here in the Red Bluff at the Outlaw Race.
All right.
The West Coast Nationals. Our good friend Brandon Williams is on our team. Took this deal over, and it's been a big success.
So where are you based at?
Well, Anderson, California, with Dave's stuff and all that. Yep.
Well, I'll
way
have
north, way to the other end of California, all the way to the other end.
Well, what I'll do is I'll have Becky send you our contact info if you would like to get your kids some radio time.
Absolutely. My kids can talk really good. They're really good talkers.
Well, because if they ever go anywhere, that's what sponsors are looking for.
That's what they need.
All right. Well, we'll definitely hook you up, and we appreciate you taking time out of your race Sunday to be part of the Ron Esau Memorial. We're going to, like I've been mentioning throughout the show, we're going to be giving it to the family for posterity. And it sounds like either you're trying to start a car or you're trying to keep it running.
Those are go-karts going by. Yeah.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
perfect
right here in
sound
the middle of
effects.
the
I
fair.
love it.
Hey, your kid could beat that guy. That's not going to be a problem.
Oh yeah.
All right, Dave.
Well,
Dave, I want to
gotta
thank.
tell you one thing, man. Ron was a good, just an amazing person, and I've met a lot of people in my 41 years of racing.
Yeah.
And he's one of those special people that stuck out, and he always had a smile on his face, and he'd do anything for you.
You got it, buddy. All right. Well, since you're at a racetrack, we're going to go ahead and let you get back to the kids. Thank you very, very much for taking time. Dave, thank you as well. Pit lizard. I'm gonna remember that.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on. But also wanted, looking forward to seeing everybody at Ronnie's celebration on April 3rd.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to be bigger than any of us even could imagine.
Yeah.
Because he touched so many people.
Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We're going to take a quick break. Tom, will you, Becky, and I'll and Brittany will close the show right here on Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, folk. Welcome back to Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, we got to sit here for 11 minutes.
Oh, right. The song doesn't even get going.
I know, but this
For a little
song,
while.
this is
It's a great
right.
song.
This song's up there with Dale Earnhardt, if you want my honest
boy.
opinion.
Oh, you need some tissue?
No, that's because I'm going to make it go away.
Okay.
Tom McGrath, and not in the house, but he's,
On the line.
wasn't this a fun 2 hours, Tom?
It was fun. It was fun listening to everybody and fun, able to contribute a little of the lore of Ronnie Esau.
Yeah. Well, and I just was talking to Becky off air, and I've talked her into taking the 1 hour we did last couple months ago.
Late January, I believe.
And then the 2 hours we're doing today, and either put them on a CD or a thumb drive and give them away at the memorial.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good.
Wouldn't that be cool? So that way everybody's got, the call-ins and all that. I just can't be there since I'm going to be sitting here instead, but I'll be there. Are you going to go, Brittany?
I'm going to try to swing by on my way here.
Yeah.
I have an in-studio guest lined up already.
Yeah. So while you were sitting there for 2 hours, any other stories that popped into your head while you were listening?
Well, yeah, lots,
I love
and
that laugh.
it's the thing that I remember from Ronnie. I mean, I spent a lot of time with him at the track. We were for a short time competitors, but then I was more of an observer, and introduced him hundreds of times, to the fans at Cajon Speedway. But I knew the Esau so well. But our group of racer friends, the Beats, the Baxters, the Hagmans, George Bellman, Ron Overman, and all these guys. We saw each other in many times social situations, getting together for bunco or getting together, somebody's birthday party, and seeing, Ronnie was always part of it, always laughing, always having a good time. He was responsible. I gave a lot of the nicknames to the Cajon Speedway drivers over the years. And how I came up with them, I don't know. It's just something that struck with me. Mm-hmm. And of course, I always introduce Ronnie as Rapid Ronnie Esau.
That's right.
There was one other Rapid Ron out there. It was Rapid Ronnie Overman.
Yeah.
Two Rons, two Rapid guys, and they lived up to their credentials.
Boy.
They were always fast every time they showed up at Cajon Speedway. And it's ironic, I looked up a little bit of history on both Ron Overman and Ron Esau. Years ago when, I started the plastic shop at Mount McGill High School and I got involved in racing, I wound up making race car bodies as a start, to, as you said, keep body panels on my own car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Ron Overman came to me and said, hey, can you make a body off of this 75 Camaro, a brand new Camaro that he bought from Grijalva Chevrolet in El Cajon, rolled into my shop, and we waxed that baby up, and we made body parts of it. And then, of course, my body was a 62 Pontiac Tempest, which actually was the same body style that Ronnie Esau ran, the 61 car. In Stock Car Racing magazine, when they were in their early infantile stages of starting that magazine, in the centerfold it says Racing California Style, and on one half of the page was Ron Overman's orange 75 Camaro that was built in my high school plastic shop, and on their other half was the 61 of Ron Esau. I am so proud of that accomplishment.
Sure.
The fact that my class who built those parts was featured in the magazine. Anyways, I'm at a party, and I like I said, I gave out nicknames to the drivers, and my nickname by Ron Esau was Tiger Tom McGrath.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know me as Tiger Tom McGrath. How I got that was we were at a pool party at Jerry Joyner's house one day, and Esau comes in. I'm sitting at a table probably destroying a cheeseburger or something like that, and Esau comes up from behind me. And if you've ever, had a handshake with Esau, you remember it. He had a death grip of just hand strength, unbeknownst. Well, he comes up behind me and he gives me this immense titty twister that
another one.
Oh
story.
my God, like Dan Smith described,
Yeah.
giving it to Ronnie Esau. Well, he comes up and he pinches me, and I get angry. And Esau stands back and he goes, "Tiger Tom, oh my goodness, take it easy." And it was Tiger Tom ever since.
That's
as far as Ron Esau was concerned.
That is so funny. Well, I've told the story in the last time, and I've got to tell it because Becky will remember it immensely. We were at an event for Jim
Watkins.
Jim Watkins. He had ALS. And
golf tournament.
In the golf tournament, and we were raising money for the cause. And Dave Salas had donated his Dale Earnhardt driving suit, and he had it framed in a plastic box, had the hat, and somebody wrote on the description extra large. Well, if you know Dave Salas, he's an extra small, So I want to bid on this uniform. I mean, I was just enamored with it. So I walk over there and I put $50 down. Ron Esau walks over, puts $75. I looked at him. I go, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I like that uniform." I said, "Okay." So then I went and put $100, and Ronnie put $125, and I put $150, and Ronnie puts $170. I go, "Hey, what are you doing?" He says, "I'm just going to make sure you pay enough money where I feel good by giving this to Jim." And I think it was I ended up spending over $200. But the kicker is, I get it home. I couldn't even put my leg in the pants. It was so small. And he thought that was so funny. I mean, he had that typical Ron Esau laugh.
Yep.
And that uniform is in my front room. I look at it every single day, every single night. And it's kind of my tribute to Ron, because, I mean, he was I didn't get to know him as well as I would have liked, but he was just such a great guy the short time I knew him.
That's the story Ron wanted to tell me when I met him.
Was it really?
Yeah, he wanted to tell me his version of that same
what
story.
was his version?
He enjoyed it a lot more than you, I believe.
More than you know.
The bidding process.
Well, I didn't have a lot of money, I mean, and I think Becky thought it was cute too, but yeah.
I was there to raise money. That was our goal, and we succeeded.
And I think you and Ronnie must have had something going on, because he was sort of floating around, and I think he did that to more than one auction item, now that I think about it. Oh, my gosh. But anyway, Tom, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to dedicate your time to the memorial. I mean, it made all the difference in the world. It really did.
Glad to do it, Dave. You know, I've missed 1 hour of happy hour.
Sorry.
Well, I guess you're going to have to catch up.
Yeah.
You think you can do that?
You could have started.
I'm a couple of laps down.
That's funny.
Here we're in this resort in Yuma, having a good time with my wife. And,
All right.
enjoying retired life.
Yeah, you're doing a good job of it, man. I'm telling you, you're doing a good job. At least now, though, I know you can call in, so there's no excuse if we want you back.
Yeah.
Okay, you know it.
All right. Well, give Dawn a big hug for us, and
I sure will.
I don't know what you want to do with that dog. If you really want a big dog, call me. I'll give you a Roddy.
Well, you say hello to Michelle, and I'd like to come over and see the puppies.
Yeah, right.
Okay, you come over, you take 6 of them with you. It's not a problem.
I don't think Michelle will like that.
I know, she'd kill me. Did you have a comment before he left?
I've kept quiet. No, I've kept quiet just because I wanted to be the fly on the wall and hear all this bench racing. But I did want a few thank yous. I wanted to thank Danny Brent in the first place for introducing me to Ron and Becky.
Yeah.
So thank you, Danny. I hope, David, that you've enjoyed the memories.
Yes.
He's a beautiful soul.
He
David
really is.
Yeah. Now I'm getting verklempt.
I know.
Becky, thank you so much for joining us and helping to set this up. You were pivotal in this timeline.
And I can't believe I got her in studio.
I know, because she's so busy. We have like 32 weekends that you're devoted to.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
Very happy I was home.
I want to thank the listeners. I know there were some extra listeners even from my world that were listening. And
right.
And then let's make sure we get April 3rd out.
Yes.
Thank you. April 3rd, Lakeside Rodeo Grounds from 1 to 5. We have plenty of parking for whatever you're driving or whatever you're towing.
Right.
And we're going to have a really nice celebration of Ronnie's life with a lot of laughter, very upbeat. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, and I hope to see you there.
From time, what's the time start?
1 to 5.
So 1 to 5. Mm-hmm. Come on out. Hang out with some racers. Bring a tape recorder or use your phone.
Yeah. Right.
Because what you thought this 2 hours was great. Trust me, you get people up close and personal. You probably couldn't put it on radio.
And it's not going to be live on air. So how many more twisting stories are going to come out? Because we just had 2 live on air.
Just the thought of it makes me go, ow. All right.
Oh, Tom, it was nice talking.
Tom, great talking to you.
Yeah.
Enjoy your time off. Have one for me, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for all you do for us.
Yes.
And please give Don my love.
Again. And so many years we collaborated on so many things.
Yes,
absolutely.
indeed.
You were always there. You were always there.
Thank
She's
you, Tom.
the best.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you.
All right, Becky, I can't thank
I know.
you enough.
You're so humble. I don't.
And we made it without a box of tissue. Did you notice that?
Yeah, we have sleeves.
Oh, I thought you said fleas.
No,
So we don't have
not
fleas.
me. But, not
All
I.
right. Well, folks, that was it. FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The answer.